Hey everybody, thanks for joining us tonight on our coverage on Tropical Storm Hanna, which will likely be our first landfalling hurricane in the continental United States. Hanna is expected to become a hurricane tomorrow with a Category 1 status, according to the National Hurricane Center. They think it'll be with sustained winds near 75 miles an hour as it makes its landfall. It is expected to be very near Corpus Christi at the time of landfall. Currently, Hanna is about 200 miles off the coast of Corpus Christi. And we have a couple of cameras we're going to show you. Our partners with Surfline. Our first camera is at the North Padre seawall, and of course it is central time zone there, so there is still plenty of light to work with, although of course we're in that twilight hour, but you can still see that there is plenty of waves and wind action. That's only going to deteriorate as we head into tonight and into tomorrow. Tropical storm force winds are expected to be felt along the eastern coastline of Texas as soon as tomorrow morning, and then these hurricane force winds that we're anticipating will be likely in the afternoon. Our next stop is going to take us to Matagorda, Texas as well. And as you take a look at that, you can see again that we are talking about some showers off, some winds and high surf off the coast of this area of Texas as well. And again, we expect the conditions here to also deteriorate as we head through tonight. Now, a lot of folks in this area have been trying to scramble to get ready for Hanna. Most of the projections kept it at a tropical storm, but we talked about this yesterday. It's really important to kind of prepare for the worst case scenario and then be thankful when the worst doesn't happen. So in this case, the folks that live in Texas will be likely dealing with this hurricane, a Category 1 hurricane. A lot of folks don't make preps for tropical storms. That's just kind of how it goes for a lot of folks that live along the coastal communities in the U.S. They tend to only prepare for hurricanes, and sometimes people don't even prepare for those. So I know there's a lot of folks trying to get busy tonight getting things prepped. We are anticipating a storm surge, at least a minor one. The greater threat, I think, with Hanna is going to be the rain with this particular cyclone. It is going to rapidly deteriorate once it makes landfall, and then expected to bring 7 to 10 inches of rain in southern Texas, and then become a big problem for Mexico, where not only will they deal with floods, but they'll also deal with mudslides in that area of Mexico as well. So let's take a look at the radar. And Matt, if you want to take it full screen, we can kind of show folks a little bit better what's going on. Matt Hyland, our director extraordinaire there, manning the helms and all the buttons tonight for me. So thanks, Matt. It looks like most of the heavier rain, of course, is still far enough away. It's still in radar range right now, but we are expecting to see a little bit more intensity as we head through tonight and into tomorrow. And then I do anticipate also a little bit of a surge. Now, the National Hurricane Center does officially have a storm surge warning in this area of the country as well. I'll show you that coming up in just a second, but you can kind of see some features here that are interesting. So let me point this out. So you probably already see it, but let me grab my pointer so we can take a look here. And it's been very interesting to kind of watch and see what's been going on with Hanna these last 24 hours or so. You can kind of see what it looks like a ragged center of circulation. And the National Hurricane Center in their latest discussion actually conservatively kept the winds around 50 miles an hour. They were a little nervous to bump those winds up more, but on infrared imagery and certainly what we're seeing here on the radar imagery shows an organized system, what appears to be a closed low there with the center right in here. So all the ingredients are there for this to strengthen in that threshold to that minimal Category 1 hurricane. So the thinking is that will happen in the next 24 hours or less. This is interesting. So this is our infrared imagery, and what I did is I enhanced it. This is the GO16 imagery, and we get this scan every 2 minutes. So this is some of that higher resolution imagery that we were so thankful when the GOES satellites launched into space, because now instead of getting radar satellite data every 15 to 30 minutes, now we can get these images every minute, depending on how high up in the atmosphere you are. This particular product is an every 2 minute imagery, but a couple of things to notice. So you see, let me grab my pointer again. You see the pink there in the center of the storm. Whoops, I grabbed the wrong thing. The center of the storm. right here, those are some very, very, very cold cloud tops. It's called central dense overcast, or CDO. And this indicates, again, that we're talking about some really high thunderstorms and very high in the atmosphere. We've also got some banding features here. See this kind of feathering effect? It kind of looks like feathers here. That's outflow from the circulation. And then we've also got some inflow coming in here. So this is definitely an organized, or a system that's getting more organized. Thankfully, it's close to land. But if it was further in the Gulf of Mexico and it had more time to develop, this really would be much more a serious scenario for a stronger system. At this point, we think this will be a Category 1 with sustained winds of 75 miles an hour. But again, looking impressive with the inflow here and the outflow up in here. And then here's these really, really high thunderstorms that are clustering around that center. And that's where the biggest winds are. And that's where we expect to see a lot of that wind as we head into tomorrow. So there were, of course, some changes with the 5 p.m. update from the Hurricane Center. So you can see there's a hurricane warning that extends from Baffin Bay to Mesquite, Texas. And then you can see in the purple there, those are tropical storm warnings. And we anticipate those, again, to stay in place through most of, all of tomorrow, actually. And then probably see those drop as we get into Sunday. But I do think that the folks in that area, especially from Baffin Bay to Mesquite, Texas, definitely need to have, if you can get sandbags. I know there were crews out today in the Corpus Christi area trying to get sandbags to folks that were in line. There were huge lines of folks in Corpus Christi that were in line for these supplies. And unfortunately, because the intensity path track changed from the Hurricane Center today. That's Hanna kind of caught a lot of people off guard that don't normally prepare for tropical storms, but had to prepare for Hanna because now we're talking about a hurricane. So that's why when we talk about these cyclones, and we always tell people, again, prepare for that worst case scenario and then be fortunate when it doesn't turn out to, or it's better than what you suspect, because there's so many folks right now I know scrambling to try and get these supplies, even though we're still talking about a Category 1 hurricane that can produce significant damage along the immediate coast in terms of some of these localized flooding issues. But again, I'm also very concerned about the rain event from this particular system as well. So here's a look at the storm surge potential. Storm surge warning is all that area you see shaded in that bright pink, and the surge from the National Hurricane Center 2 to 4 feet. So that is not a life-threatening surge. A storm surge anywhere from 6 feet or above really is a big concern in terms of putting your life in danger. However, cars can be lifted in just as little as 18 inches of water. So it's still a very serious situation. So if you live in this area and you have been told by your local officials that you have an involuntary or even a mandatory evacuation, I think as the last time I checked, there were not a lot of that in place. But if you get one issued from your local officials, you really need to react and act quickly and get out of harm's way, because again, we're just a little bit of water, just a foot and a half of water is enough to move and lift cars, that can move heavy lawn furniture or heavy furniture, period. Getting stuck in your house could create damage. So really, it's something that a lot of folks don't think about when they're thinking about these systems. There's so much focus on the winds. How high are the winds? Well, and a lot of folks say, oh, it's only going to be a Category 1. I don't need to prepare. But there's so many other weather elements that go into the forecast besides these winds. So that's why we really try and talk about the other weather hazards, which again, the number one killer of a landfalling tropical system is freshwater flooding. It's the rain. So here's a look at the potential inundation, and anywhere from 1 to 3 feet. The yellow there is the 3 feet. I'm going to zoom way in here tight so you can see where that is. Some of the ports there have a higher threat for some of this inundation, and most of this will be about a foot. So again, manageable, but certainly going to be not fun for folks that stay in place. And again, some of the ports will be stacking up 1 to 3 feet. I'm going up the coast here, getting close to, I got to zoom out here and see. Yeah, we're getting close to Houston. Yep. And then well, Houston's a little inland, obviously, but here's again, so 1 to 3 feet on average is what we're expecting for this potential inundation. And again, that's the risk of these immediate areas that are right along the coast when we get this surge or this wall of water. That's kind of where the Gulf of Mexico and the land meet, and they come together and create this storm surge, and that's where we can have the potential flooding problem. So there's a look at it again, a kind of broader perspective. Luckily, we're still only talking about a 1 to 3 foot inundation, but again, 18 inches of water is enough to loft cars, so it's really dangerous stuff. Okay, here's a look at the latest path from the Hurricane Center, and keep in mind that it is currently 8:45 in Texas right now. We'll get another update from the National Hurricane Center in about an hour and 15 minutes, 10 p.m. local time there, 11 p.m. Eastern. And the National Hurricane Center does believe that once Hanna comes on shore, it'll weaken, of course, and not maintain its hurricane strength. That's pretty common, of course, we all know that. And then as it heads into Mexico, that's where the threat for the flooding will really ramp up. But I'm also concerned for southern Texas because we're still talking about 24 to 48 hours of immediate impacts from this tropical cyclone. So that's enough time to put some significant rains. I'm going to show you a rain product coming up here in just a second. There is a lot of water with this particular cyclone and a lot of opportunity for some flooding. So our storm potential. So I've got this starting now. Of course, you can see all the heavier rains and the embedded storms are off the coast of the U.S. Here's some of those banding features that we talked about. This is a computer modeling product, by the way. This is, I think I have the HER model up. This is the short range model that I've got. This is a really high resolution model. It does a really good job of forecasting rain and storm potential. So it's a short range model. It's only going to go out about 24 hours. But you can see how as we get in time, sometime in the afternoon, you can see, look at that. Again, our well-closed low here, starting to see the outer, if this does verify and becomes a hurricane, which all indications it are, you can see the outer eye there, the outer eye wall starting to impact south of Corpus Christi and north of Brownsville. So that would be around 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, potential landfall somewhere in that neighborhood. You guys will tweak that as we get into tomorrow and it gets a little closer to land and we can actually get a vector or a center, a lock in on that actual center of circulation. And then we'll have a really good idea just how far it is and when it's going to actually make landfall. But it's currently about 190 miles east of Corpus Christi, and it's moving west at 10. So if you do the math, that's about 19 hours from now, or actually that was 19 hours from 7 p.m. Central Time. So again, we're looking in sometime tomorrow afternoon for the potential landfall of the center. And again, we're going to start to feel those tropical storm force winds as soon as the overnight tonight. So we're talking about those winds impacting the coastal communities of Texas as early as tomorrow morning. Sustained tropical storm force winds, that's going to be later and late morning, early afternoon. And then the reds here, again, let me grab our little arrow so you can see the reds, of course, are the what we think will be the hurricane force winds, and those will be coming in sustained in the afternoon. Remember, this is model guidance. This is from the hurricane hunters. We showed some video this morning from the fast forecast of one of the hurricane hunter planes, and part of their job is to forecast, or part of their mission is to gather data that's in and around the cyclone. They look at they sample the atmosphere ahead of it, to the left, to the right, and behind it, and then they would put all this information in supercomputers. They test the sea surface temperatures and come up with these products. So this is a model that comes out from the National Hurricane Center. So this model, again, showing hurricane force winds will be sustained sometime tomorrow afternoon around 3 o'clock, and then continuing to move inland. And then after that, of course, we'll quickly see those winds deflate, and then the big rain event will become the big issue. And again, that's the concern I have with Hanna. Initially, it's going to be the hurricane force winds, of course, and the storm surge and the inundation. But then after that, large chunks of Texas are going to be dealing with this flooding and this flash flooding that I think could be an issue in some areas of Texas. So this is the product I was talking about that was estimating, and this is from the Weather Prediction Center. Again, this is all data that we get and we turn back around for you all. This particular product indicating that some of the potential 7 to 9 inches. If you look at the legend up there, the oranges and the yellows are 7 to 9 inches of rain that's possible as this moves on shore, and then 3 to 5 near the Houston area. Now, this may or may not verify. This does not mean that every area that you see in orange is going to get 9 inches of rain. Sometimes these products overdo the estimations here, but I do think there is a possibility. The National Hurricane Center referenced this in their discussion tonight, that there is that possibility of up to 7 to 9 inches in this area. So that's why at least some of these localized pockets, some of these powerful feeder bands that carry a ton of rain and a ton of moisture, and they whip right over these areas, could put down up to 7 inches of rain. Real quickly, I wanted to get you updated on Gonzalo. A lot of folks also interested in this. We talked about this morning as well. Gonzalo expected to have a demise by Monday. National Hurricane Center thinks this will be a distant memory by then. Gonzalo had been interacting with the Saharan dust. We also talked about that this week as well. The Saharan dust kind of chokes these tropical systems, and they don't have an opportunity to strengthen because remember, it's like oil and water. So the water being the hurricane, the oil being the dust as an analogy. And when these tropical cyclones suck those dust particulates into these cyclones, they choke them out, and they don't have a chance to grow. So this is what is likely going to be the scenario for Gonzalo. But wanted to show you, we're still going to track it. National Hurricane Center still watching it. There are tropical storm warnings issued for the Windward Islands right now. And those folks are dealing with, of course, Gonzalo, and we'll still be talking about it this weekend, but expected to dissipate sometime on Monday. Whoops, I did not mean to show you that. Hang on, let me go back up to the radar, and we'll do a quick update here, and then I'll take a look at the questions. I've got the Facebook page up where I know we're live across most of our platforms right now, so I'll look at some of the questions. If there's any questions, if you have a question, by the way, now's the time to ask, and we'll try and get them answered, and then we'll have another update here for you shortly. But let's see, real quick, I got to put my readers on. I don't see any direct questions here. Okay, so if you have one, just let me know. But again, there's a look at the live radar. Again, Hanna, just about 190, a little less than that now, east of Corpus Christi, expected to make landfall tomorrow in about 17 hours or less. If we're doing the math right, it's moving west right now at 10. If it stays on that current trajectory, it would make landfall in about 17 hours. Remember, we got this last update about 2 hours ago, so you've got to take 2 off of the equation there if you're trying to figure it out. And then here's a look at that radar loop, and again, looking like what could be a center of circulation, a ragged, ill-defined eye, if you will. We'll see if the Hurricane Center upgrades it. I doubt they'll upgrade it tonight. It doesn't look that great to me on the radar imagery right now. It looked pretty healthy earlier today, but of course now that the sun has set, we're losing some of that daytime heating that helps to fuel some of those storms. We'll see what they say in the next hour here, but I definitely think tomorrow, early in the day, if we see what we saw today, we'll see a Hurricane Hanna sometime tomorrow morning before it makes landfall, because there's definitely a closed low in the center of that. It's had a closed low actually for a couple of days. It's just been very ragged and hasn't looked well organized. Another feature, actually, before we take this live broadcast down, let me show you, where is my draw? So another feature we're looking at is this banding feature. So we look for the thunderstorms to go all the way around the center. So notice how they're just on that northeast flank there, which is common. That is typically the most potent and violent, if you will, part of a tropical cyclone. But we look for those banding features where they encapsulate, go all the way around the center, and we just don't see that yet, not even close to that. So again, it's a developing cyclone. Getting it into that mature level, which it'll mature sometime tomorrow, the height of its intensity before landfall. And I suspect to see more of that wraparound circulation that we get when we see a mature hurricane, which we don't have here. And that's why the Hurricane Center has, again, left it as a tropical storm, but a strengthening tropical storm. Okay, you guys, I think that'll do it for now. It is currently 9:53 in Eastern time. We are in Orlando, Florida, and it's 8:53 in Texas. We know a lot of folks will be up tonight getting ready. So we wanted to let you know that meteorologist Stephanie Lauber will be starting her live coverage tomorrow. I'll be here in the house tomorrow as well to help out a bit, and we'll be here to track the landfall of Hanna, our first landfall in the continental U.S. Of course, there's also Hurricane Douglas. We haven't talked about it. That's in the Pacific. That's not on the Atlantic Basin side. That's expected to impact Hawaii in the coming days as well. We'll have some more on that on our social media pages if you want to check that out this weekend as well. Okay, you guys, that'll do it for now. I thank you so much for joining us. Again, if you have a question on one of the pages, leave them in the comments and I'll go back and try and answer them. You can see our social media handles as well. It's super easy to get a hold of us. We do read all of our comments. We try to respond to them as quickly as possible. So if you have a question, let me know or let one of us know, and we'll get back to it soon. For now, I am the chief meteorologist for My Radar. I am Leslie Hudson. I want to thank you again for stopping in tonight for our live update on Hanna, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Stay safe, Texas.